I first became involved with the Courier, which was originally called Ironbark, which was the idea of a code name for this operation. When Dominic Cook, who I'd worked with before at the Royal Court and also for the BBC's Royal Crown series, playing Richard III for him, came and pitched me the idea. We'd been looking for a project to work together on again. We're great friends from the previous experiences we've had, and he told me about this story. I mean, I knew of the era, I knew of the Cuban Missile Crisis and the key players on the global stage. I had no idea about Oleg Penkovsky and Gravel Win. And I was intrigued. I was intrigued by who Gravel was before the film starts and the idea of playing an everyman, but most intrigued by the journey and transformation this man goes on. This epic journey, really, in such a small space of time, from being utterly naive to what he's being asked to do, to being a professional, and eventually being thrown in prison for trying to rescue his friend. And that was the other key thing, was the friendship between him and Oleg Penkovsky. The idea that key players, in amongst all of the drama and organizations involved in getting this information back into Kennedy and all the other key players, were two men who adored each other, who looked after each other, who were joined together in a mission that was about overcoming the danger and the violence of angry men holding the nuclear codes and trying to bring about a resolution that would mean peace for not only them and their families, but also the world, and being united in those universal aims beyond creed and religion and politics and nationhood, and finding a common humanity, as well as liking each other as individuals with very human failings. And yeah, I loved all those aspects. I read Tom's script and it was all there. And then I wanted to help Dominic to realize his vision for the film, and we had a very short runway to do it in, due to both of our availabilities. And I said, look, I'd love to help you out as a producer as well and come on board with my company. And Adam Ackland and Leah Clark, head of film production at Sunny March, our company, jumped on board and we got the production rolling. And yeah, that's how it began. I wasn't familiar with the story before I got the script. My preparation was to lean very heavily on the research that Tom and Dominic had already obsessively done by the time I came to the script, but also to read as much as I could around it, especially about that era of Russian life, to experience what that must have been like, and also English life, to know what the change and the temperature and physically as well as mentally would be like to shift into, from being an English salesman, to look at that industry that Greville was part of, to try and understand what he came from, to really understand what that character was before we see him on screen, where most of the heavy lifting is done by this extraordinary script and this amazing tale, this extraordinary arc and trajectory that he goes on. So yeah, I read Greville's autobiography, which is slightly skewered, and understandably so. He was somebody who felt very wronged by the establishment that didn't really own him for the work he did. And he, I think, self-aggrandized a little bit with some falsehoods as well as some really painful truths as well. So it was about taking that all with a pinch of salt through those understandings and those filters. But there were interesting key things that went beyond the research that I just kind of noticed. The uniformities. I mean, his uniform, actually, his physical appearance, his side parting, his moustache, and his tie. If you Google him, there's just all the images of him are in the same clothes. But tragically, both before, where he's plump on a few too many boozy business lunches doing deals over pints of beer, but also during the show trial, and also after, as far as when he was released from the Russian prison system that he was held in for over 2.5 years. The physical transformation of the guys is really stark, is very disturbing. And the only footage of him is actually a Pathé newsreel of him being hounded by reporters on his release when he was exchanged for Lonsdale, who was a double agent returning to Moscow. And he looks like a haunted animal suffering from PTSD. He doesn't quite know how to respond to people who are behind him. His voice is quite high pitched, and you can hear the Welsh intonation in there, as well as this very sort of clipped RP accent. We couldn't go with the high pitchedness, and that might have been to do with the speed of the film. But I was very interested to evolve that Welsh tone because of his background, because of what he was trying to escape in a way. And that's really what I hung the performance on. And there were interesting moments, like the tie for me. I looked into it. It was a Nottingham University Engineering Club star. He never went to Nottingham, never was part of that university or indeed that society. So he wanted to belong to something that he didn't belong to. And I think that was ingrained from an early age from his mother, who by all accounts was incredibly forceful in wanting him to be upwardly mobile and to achieve more and attain a higher class than he was born to. And he certainly married well. He talked himself into good deals as well, so kept a steady income. And then I suppose that element of him was still at play, and I wanted to show that early on, even in that first moment where he's doing a deal on a golf course, that he's all smiles and it's silly me, I can't believe I didn't get that putt. But to make them feel better, to encourage them to feel good about themselves, to then, start the sales pitch, I thought, he already had an incredible understanding of the kind of emotional intelligence needed to be a spy, but without any of the spycraft. And then it was about trying to mark all the way through how that developed. And obviously shooting out a sequence, we have to be very careful about how we charted that journey from naive to knowingness to expert to the heroics of trying to rescue Penkovsky at the end. And that was just about picking it apart with Dominic all the time and just being really clear about where we were at and where we wanted Greville to be at in the story, how confident we wanted him to be. So that was the research, and did a lot of work on the accent. And I have to say, and I wouldn't mention Mirab at all in any of these interviews, Mirab was an extraordinary partner to play with, crucial to bring about that friendship, and to have that ease with an actor, both on and off screen, was a real gift for me. And he taught me a lot about Russia, both in that era and now. Even though he's Georgian, he's far closer to that world and understanding of it than I am and have been. So he gave me reading recommendations and references that were invaluable in my research and understanding of Greville and the journey they both went on. A temperature check at the door, and possibly a COVID passport, because you might need one if you have had a jab. That's helpful. No, what to expect, what for audiences to expect. It's very exciting to think that audiences are starting to potentially return to the cinema, to have a cinematic experience with this film. I feel there is a story here for everyone. This is the story of an everyman, and what we've been living through and will continue, I think, to live through is going to test all of our resilience. And people have already shown amazing patience, amazing selflessness and heroism in stepping up to the plate and being selfless in their actions, whether it's volunteerism or community-based actions, or whether it's on the front line of the healthcare crisis as clinicians, or whether it's delivery men and women or cleaners, and anyone of any walk of life. There has been a time to take responsibility, to do things for others, and to do the best you can as a citizen. And I think Greville sort of embodies that, an unexpected hero, somebody who doesn't have a special skill set, but is asked to do something extraordinary under great pressure and manages somehow to do that. And then afterwards endures incredible hardship, brutal hardship at the hands of his experience incarcerated in Russia. So I hope audiences take away a message of hope, that they can surmount the obstacles that we all face, that they can offer something, however disempowered or disconnected, disenfranchised, or confused or out of control they may feel, that everyone can do something, as Greville proves. He's an everyman who does an extraordinary thing.
核戦争を回避せよ。
Spies?
平凡なセールスマンがある日突然スパイとなった。歴史の闇に葬られた衝撃の実話。クーリエ最高機密の運び屋。